From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. A production of iHeartRadio's How Stuff Works.
Welcome back to the show. My name is Matt. Noel is here in spirit.
They call me Ben. We are joined, as always, with our super producer, Paul, Mission Control Decant. Most importantly, you are here, and that makes this stuff they don't want you to know. For a check-in, Matt,
yes.
I know usually I ask you first, but I just want to say, I have to interject, I am so glad to see you, man. It's been too long.
It has been. We, for any of you that don't know out there, let's just give them a little behind the curtain. We record 3 times a week, this show. So we usually have a time to be together in a room, talking, catching up before recording and everything. And as Ben notes all the time, we are friends outside of this magical darkened room where we record.
Yeah.
So not having that has been it's not been great. So I'm
weird.
Also happy to see you, sir.
Thanks, man. It feels good. Yeah, it was let's see, Paul and I were in Texas, and then we were in Chicago for a second, and I am hopefully, by the time all our fellow listeners hear this, I will have returned from Brussels.
Wow, that's cool.
I'm going there tomorrow as we record this.
Oh my gosh.
And now with all that update, all that prologue, I have to ask, how are you doing, man? I almost sent you some prank text when I was at the Alamo, but decided against it.
Oh man, I would have accepted. I'm doing really well. You know, everything in my life is focused on my son, and we're doing this thing where every morning he makes a picture of a letter, and then we talk about what that letter is, and then the whole day is about that letter.
Oh, that's so cool.
So like walking around, going to the grocery store, pointing out things that are like start with B. It's so much fun. And the whole thing was my wife's idea, and she's so talented and smart about doing these kind of things. She makes every day unique and exciting for my son. So it's really great. That's what's going on with me. Ben?
That's great.
I want to ask you how you're doing personally and what's going on.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling you would respond,
no comment.
Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and get into the episode, everyone. We're talking pyramids today.
Right. Yes. Pyramids, some of the oldest known structures built by human beings so far as we know. And these structures have also captivated human beings, not just in the recent days when they're seen as mysterious and enigmatic, but during the times that they were built, right? And
especially coming across, let's say you're walking along a river, you're following a river in exploration of some kind, and out in the distance you see something towering, and it has sharp angles to it, which you don't find anywhere in nature. And as you get closer, you realize how large this structure is.
It's not just a mountain in the middle of the desert.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, it's fascinating to put ourselves back in space and time. In a previous episode, we explored the stories of pyramids in other parts of the world, which is a real thing. You know what I mean? Like one of the earliest pyramids we know about would be the ziggurats in Mesopotamia, right?
Absolutely.
They don't get a lot of street cred, you know?
No.
A lot of people never heard of Mesopotamia until Ghostbusters came out back in the 80s. Or no, maybe The Exorcist, to be fair.
Oh, there you go.
Because isn't Pazuzu... Maybe Pazuzu is Sumerian.
It all sounds familiar.
Right? So in that episode, we explore what pyramids are, get into the architecture of the structures, how they're typically built, and so on. And we talk about how there are multiple different kinds of pyramids, right?
Yeah.
And this reminded me of a conversation that is a little tangential, but I thought you would enjoy. I saw one of those internet hypotheticals, right? One of those hypothetical questions your friends post on the internet, and it said, okay, here's the gist. If someone gave you $10 million right now, cash in hand, with the following caveats, would you take the money? Here are the caveats. 1, a snail will follow you for the rest of your life. 2, if the snail touches you, you will die. And then there were a couple other snail-related things.
Yeah.
My first question with that was, well, what type of snail? Because they're not all, when we say the word snail, we all think of like the same crenellated shell and the like living booger that crawls around under it. But there are different sorts of snails, and there are different sorts of pyramids. So the thing that is interesting about this for our purpose is that there's so many misconceptions about pyramids, right? People think when we think of a pyramid, we think of the angular structure you're describing. I love that moment you took us back to where there's someone maybe living a hunter-gatherer lifestyle or something, and they're walking along a river, and then they see the seat of human civilization. It's breathtaking.
And they don't get immediately killed by the security forces or of some kind.
Right, right. Or the crocodiles or the other wildlife, yes. So when we think of pyramids, we think of pyramids in Egypt, located in northern Africa.
And it's all because of the movie Stargate.
And it's just completely because of the movie Stargate, which is an amazing documentary.
It is.
So it's strange, though, because as we found, there are pyramids in other parts of the world, right?
Oh, yeah. They're not just in Egypt. In our previous episodes, we found them in South America. We knew that they were in South America. We also found them in Africa, parts of Asia. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's fascinating, and we keep talking about this because anytime we bring up pyramids, you just get back to the question of why. Like, why the heck? Why did you do it that way? What is it? Why? Why did you do that?
Yeah, that's my favorite part too. Like obelisk. Those are weird. It's weird. Remember when we went up to DC and we filmed some stuff about the Washington Monument?
Yes.
Which once upon a time was going to be, a statue of George Washington. But now it's this ridiculously phallic thing you can crawl up inside of and reach the top.
Yeah, man.
The tip? I don't know.
That's what it's all about. But really that concept is still baffling to me. Mm-hmm. With all the varying types, like you're talking about the ziggurats, the more angular pyramids, the stepped pyramids, all these things. It's just they're so symbolic, and I think outwardly symbolic of something to have that shape. It also goes back to the construction process of building up in that way.
Right.
But still, it's just I don't know. There's something so mysterious about it.
It's true. Yeah, we know that the primary purposes of pyramids and pyramid-like structures, I would also include maybe mounds in the North American continent. We know that the primary purposes tended to be spiritual or funereal, right? These are gigantic tombs, Taj Mahal style, or these are, in the case of some ziggurats, holy sites, sacred sites of worship wherein rituals are enacted.
At least that's our best understanding from the work of archaeology and archaeologists.
Right. The work of some brilliant archaeologists,
yes.
right? And then also the work of some just morally bankrupt ones back in the day. And then that's, like the racism that gave rise later, first to the idea of lost civilizations and then later to the idea of extraterrestrials. Because the people, we have to hit this fact, the people who wrote a lot of early stories about discovering these different amazing structures in different parts of the world, they were somehow on some level offended by the idea that the ancestors of the local people could have built those.
Yeah.
So there you have it. We know that that's the craziest thing. We know that pyramids, despite being ancient, the ancient pyramids and structures we talk about remain controversial today, not just because of the institutionalized discrimination and stuff, but also because people continue to claim that they have discovered more ancient pyramids.
Yeah, thanks to Google Earth.
Hey, I love Google Earth and LiDAR.
I know, that's true. We all do. They're amazing tools. It gives an opportunity to at least search from behind a computer screen the entire planet for things that look angular or out of place or,
Right.
Square or rectangular.
Right. And it's not to say that these things don't exist somewhere in the world, because in many parts of the world, the surrounding ecosystem will eat everything made by man. You know what I mean? You can build something in a jungle and it can just, for all intents and purposes, it can vanish.
Yeah.
And I think, you and I probably both still check in to see how many new ruins or ancient sites are found just in the Amazon alone.
Yeah.
There's a ton. So we know that these things do exist, but we also know that there's a lot of exaggeration and a lot of hyperbole involved in these claims. Generally, these discoveries become controversial for one reason or another. And it's not a case of, someone pretending to be a scientist and lying or selling snake oil, as is so often the case in a lot of scientific research. The scientists, the archaeologists, the experts, they say one thing, maybe in a relatively obscure journal of some sort. And then someone else says, hey, this would be a great headline for my my blog, my pop culture news thing, right?
My fringe website.
My fringe website, sure. And then all of a sudden what the scientists really were saying gets convoluted and telephoned into something different. And that's where we get into these claims of ancient, hitherto unknown civilizations, or they try to find something that is a selling point for a pyramid. Because in mainstream news or in fringe websites, just saying, hey, here is a pyramid found that confirms long-held beliefs that this group of people lived in this way,
Yes.
or ate this crop, or et cetera, et cetera. We want some hyperbole, we want some superlatives, like when you graduate high school.
Well, yeah, and the reader and or listener or whoever, I think, this is just my opinion, wants to have that discovery moment, that eureka moment where it's, oh, civilization was older, or civilization did exist in this part of the world, or, that kind of, I don't even know exactly what it is. It's a mystery being solved, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you want that answer, even if it's a question that you weren't even really asking in that moment, but you see the potential for this answer to a cool thing. I'm not sure if I'm explaining that right.
Yeah, we like patterns and solutions.
Yeah.
We like seeing the bridge between concept A and concept B. Human beings are all about connection, right?
Yeah.
I think that's profoundly astute, man, because now we're talking about a psychological drive. And so what does this drive mean when we read about pyramids?
Well, it means, like you said, there are all these claims that this is the oldest one. Here's the biggest revelation that you're going to get with regards to this whole thing, and we're going to give it to you right now. Such as, let's say it's 1996, and you're at the Independent, and you get a tip about some seashell constructions in Brazil, and you post it up. And you put a title that says something like, world's oldest pyramids are discovered.
In Brazil.
But that's literally all you have to put at the title. That's what they put. World's oldest pyramids are discovered.
Right. Because with this kind of reporting, people love seeing an est, an EST, the big est, the old est, the strange est, right? And so when we see the world's oldest pyramid, we think, what, Brazil? That is definitely not Egypt. So the story with this is interesting because this is just one of a pattern of oldest pyramid claims, right? Mm-hmm. The Brazil pyramids date back to 2000 BC, 2000, 3000 BC, or BCE, whatever you prefer. And the construction techniques are different because, again, not every pyramid is created equal. These are, as you said, Matt, built of seashells, and they were built over a long period of time. But for, I think, starting in maybe 1992 or so, about 4 years before the article is published, teams of researchers based in the area had been trying to figure out what was up with these things because they had been largely deconstructed.
Yes, or broken down, right? That's just over through natural processes and stuff, or, destroyed.
Right.
And they were literally called in that article, the remnants were called piles of ancient rubbish.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, they were deliberately built, but while archaeologists estimate there used to be a ton of them, 1,000 pyramids there, some thousands and thousands of years old, only 10% survive in any recognizable way. They thought the structures were 160 feet high with bases that were up to 37 acres. So this makes them much bigger than the earliest examples in Egypt, not as high. And also they took a long, long time to build. So that's a claim, and that's a fairly reputable claim. The one thing that makes it different when you really think about pyramids in Egypt is that pyramids in Egypt have survived in not the best condition, but as pyramids go, they're top notch. You know what I mean? They are what fans of classic cars call cherry condition, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So unfortunately, a lot of the pyramids in Brazil are not like that. They don't exist anymore. But now you can claim this is the oldest pyramid.
Well, yeah, and again, when you're establishing the age of something like that, let's say the primary construction is made of seashells. The mode of determining the age of those is to then carbon date somehow the structure or whatever is made up of those things. And if you're dealing with seashells, I guess by carbon dating the shells themselves is how you get that number or that range. But still, there's so much variance there. I guess that's why you have something like some of these are 2,000, 3,000 years old. Some of them are up to 5,000 years old.
And those estimates, too, get so ballparky at some point, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of, one could say, however, that, you know what? The margin on the dating process here may be pretty large, but it doesn't invalidate everything. So sorry, Egypt. That's it. Brazil has what we now know as Brazil has the oldest pyramids. But this was not the only claim for the oldest pyramid. The debate continues today. We'll tell you more about it after a word from our sponsors.
We're back, and we're going to jump to a different part of the world.
Ooh, where?
In a different time.
Oh.
Yes. So we were in the 90s, 96 to be exact. Ooh. Let's jump to just a couple years ago, 2016, and in Kazakhstan.
That's right, Matt. In 2016, a report came from an archaeologist working at the Kazakh National University, a fellow named Viktor Novozanov. And apologies for the mispronunciation there. He claimed that specialists working at the Saryakhinsky Archaeology Institute in Karganda, Kazakhstan, led by a guy named Igor Kukushkin, had discovered the world's oldest pyramid in, wait for it, Kazakhstan.
There we go. And that's another oldest pyramid. And it's, it's another one of these super captivating headlines, captivating stories.
Sure.
The headline itself was "World's Oldest Pyramid Was Found," and it's in Kazakhstan. That was from Nature World News, so slightly different publication, but still, it's that same kind of title that's just going to get your attention. So it's believed to be built roughly 1,000 years earlier than some of the more prominent pyramids that are found in Egypt.
Yeah.
1,000 years before that's pretty significant if that's proven, right? So it's located in this place called the Saryaka Steppes, and it's near the city of Karganda. It's like 3,900 miles northeast of Cairo, Egypt. That's a long way. That's
just for comparison.
Really long way. And, it's similar in appearance to some of the other pyramids that exist there. The pyramid of Djoser or Djoser. I don't know how to pronounce any of those things. I'm sorry. But again, it's really interesting. You can find the article on it if you go and look. And, there's more you can find here.
It popped up in a couple of places in 2016 that, Yahoo wrote about it. You can also find the statement from Novosanov, who believes that this is what they call a step pyramid. So it doesn't have that complete flat angle. Right?
Yes.
Like a pyramid at Giza or something. But he believes it was a mausoleum built for a local king. Still, the age of it seems legit, but does that make it the oldest pyramid or structure of this type? No, say researchers in Indonesia. You see, geophysicist Danny Hillman, Nata Widjaja, and again, Thank you to everyone who tuned in to our episode on the Orang Minyak, and told us that if our pronunciation was terrible, at least it was endearing and amusing.
Yes.
So hopefully that's what we're going for here, folks. Improv rules. This geophysicist, based out of the Indonesian Institute of Sciences, analyzed a site called Gunung Padang in Java, in Indonesia. And they said that this thing that people thought was just a weird hill for a long, long time was actually a pyramid, and a very, very old pyramid. This is, by the way, one of the more well-researched claims at this point.
Yes.
Which is not a ding on the other pyramids. This is just to say that the site in Indonesia and the team in Indonesia had more time to spend and had access to better tech.
Yeah, they did. They had ground penetrating radar and a couple other things. And they also took photographs of the site and published them and made them available so that you could really see it rather than just being, some text on a website somewhere. That always lends credibility. If you go to sciencealert.com, you can find some images, some aerial photographs that were taken, and some like closer up to the structures. It's really fascinating to see. I don't know. This one gets me.
This is compelling. Yeah, this is compelling. What's strange about this one is that while it was presented in an academic setting, I think on December 12th at the annual meeting in the American Geophysical Union, it was still considered highly controversial. But the research is compelling. You can read it in depth if you just check it out online. It looks like there were 4 separate layers, and they were built over thousands of years. So the first layer, the one that we would consider the surface, looks to be about 3,500 years old. The second layer, however, looks to be 8,000 years old. And then they get to the really crazy stuff. This is where it becomes super controversial, right?
Yeah.
The third layer, according to their estimate, is somewhere between 9,000 and 28,000 years old.
Yeah.
28,000.
I mean, maybe. Honestly, maybe. Maybe we just don't know yet, man. But that seems a bit of a stretch. I mean, it's pretty crazy. If you look at it, too, they've got an example of the layering. Mm-hmm. It shows you all the different ones and the structure and how it looks. And that the initial layer that you're talking about, the one that has that range of age, it is the most sharply angled, the most basic pyramid structure, like part of the entire thing. Mm-hmm. And, if that truly could have been built, even just at the minimum of that number, 9,000 years ago, mm-hmm. that is so significant for humanity and the history, of bipedal intelligent things walking around on this earth. Mm-hmm. That's pretty dang cool.
I can't wait to get to Indonesia one day, man. There's so much history there that we just don't know about in the West. Mm-hmm. So one thing we do have to say about this site is that when I mentioned that the research was considered controversial, I mean, it's a ton of people are criticizing the team's conclusions and their methods. They're very much going hard on the paint with this. Right now, the presentations that they've made remain non-peer reviewed, which is a big criticism by their opponents. But time will tell, right?
Yeah.
The wheels of archaeology grind slow but exceedingly fine, if we're paraphrasing. And they've been at this since 2013. So it looks like they're giving it a serious go. And this is not going to be the last ancient site that's found, right?
Absolutely.
So we know that there may be even older stuff out there. And it's almost the wrong way to phrase the question when we say, let's search for the oldest man-made thing, because there are so many things we don't know. Let's just search for all the old stuff. That's what we need to do, right?
Yeah.
Because so much of it has already disappeared. But this leads us to, we had a long preamble here, but this leads us to something that I think captivated us. You hipped me to this, Matt. More and more people have started to claim that Indonesia, Kazakhstan, Egypt, Brazil, that they have nothing on the true old structures, that there are much, much older pyramids out there in some of the world's most remote locales. We always think of Egypt when it comes to pyramids, but what about Alaska?
And we'll talk about that right after a word from our sponsor.
Here's where it gets crazy. It's true, fellow conspiracy realists. In recent years, various groups have claimed pyramids created by some unknown civilization can be found in both Alaska and Antarctica. Now, we've explored the Antarctica theory briefly before.
Yes, we have. But before we even get into that, let's establish here just the concept of general belief in how humanity began, in the Fertile Crescent, in parts of Africa,
Tigris, Euphrates.
Yeah, exactly. Where the rivers were, where the water was, where the land again was fertile, and people could survive more easily, let's say, even though life was a struggle. And then humanity spread out from there, going to all corners of the earth over the course of time, right? Mm-hmm. So when you introduce an idea that perhaps there's an even older version of humanity that existed in some other part of the world, that's why it's such a controversial idea, because it goes against the basic understandings that are generally accepted.
I see. That's a good point, because the most popular theory for human arrival on North and South America, as we call them today, is the crossing the Bering Strait via the Bering Land Bridge, which was about 20,000 years ago, I think. Mm-hmm. So the issue with that is for instance, there's a 28,000-year-old pyramid in Indonesia. The issue with this idea of a pyramid in Alaska is one of pure resources and timeline, right? Because if you notice, a lot of these pyramids that we've mentioned in other parts of the world are built in more human-friendly environments.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the idea of pyramids being built in these freezing areas seems like something that would turn our understanding of history completely on its head if this were true. So what about Antarctica? Let's just do the quick and dirty.
Okay.
Yeah.
We talked about this before. Check out the other episode if you have time. Let's just say in 10-ish, the early 1910s, the teens there too, some British explorers were hanging out in Antarctica. They were looking around going, this is pretty desolate and barren. I'm not seeing much here, until they saw rock, a nice pointy rock. And they said, hey, let's put this on our map. It's a pyramid. It's the pyramid rock. It's a pyramid. It's the tip of a pyramid.
Great. Finally.
That's what it is. It was probably some kind of natural formation or, from shearing from ice or something. Generally, let's say that's probably what it was. It isn't necessarily exactly what it was, or who knows what they found. There may be a mystery out there in Antarctica still with the old pyramid rock. We haven't been able to find it thus far. Neither of us have been to Antarctica. But let's call it a seed, this concept of, there's a pyramid on this map of Antarctica? Somebody labeled that? That becomes a catalyst for all kinds of stories.
Right, yes. Some were admittedly fiction, such as At the Mountains of Madness, written by H.P. Lovecraft in 1931. Some were more rumor mill kind of stuff, reported as if they were true in newspapers, right, in the following decades. But from 2012 to 2016, there was a new round of rumors spreading, and they were based on photographs that apparently showed some geographical in Antarctica with regular triangular sides, the kind of stuff that, to your point, Matt, earlier in the show, would not occur in nature. And so it was the argument about the Facer pyramid on Mars all over again. People on one end were saying, this is true, someone's covering this up, this is stuff they don't want you to know. And then there were other people saying, well, if we don't get photographs of this thing at multiple angles, how do we know this is not just a trick of perspective? Which is different from immediately calling BS. It's just saying, go back there, take more pictures.
Yeah, let's verify. What is it? The old adage, trust but verify.
Wow. Yeah, right. And it's funny because there were even more rumors spreading. I think the favorite is our returning champion of our show, Buzz, Dr. Rendezvous Aldrin, returned in this story because I think in 2016, toward the end of 2016, there was this rumor that he posted a picture of this ice pyramid, as people were calling it, and then said, "We are all in danger. It is evil itself." And then he rapidly deleted it.
Yeah, that was the rumor.
That was the rumor.
But what if he really did that? How crazy would that be if Dr. Rendezvous was like, look at this pyramid. They're here too. Oh my God.
Oh man. I don't know. That would be out of character for him.
Yeah, it really would. Oh gosh, that's
because he's known sort of as as someone who's trolled conspiracy theorists before, or what he calls conspiracy theorists. But anyway, so that's Antarctica. At this point, don't get us wrong, there's a lot of very strange stuff that happens on that continent. And it's part of the reason I think that you and I want to go.
Yes.
And maybe we can talk Paul into going with us. But
he's had some Iceland experience. I think he would be fantastic as like a guide and a spiritual advisor. I think, okay. Yeah, Paul, can you come with us? Cool. He says yes.
Great. He's in. Let us know also if you have been to Antarctica. We'd love to hear your adventures. So, Alaska. Let's talk about this one. This is a little more recent, and this is a bit more enigmatic. According to a couple of people, there's something strange buried in the ground about 50 miles from Mount McKinley. Today, the most well-known proponent of this idea is a writer and ufologist named Linda Moulton Howe. Here's how the story starts. All right, travel back with us to Anchorage in 1992. This is, just for comparison, the same year that the Brazilian research team began digging into the seashell pyramids.
It's true.
Yeah, 1992, same year. There was a television news broadcast from Channel 13 out of Anchorage, and they had a segment about this discovery by geologist, another one more time, scientist of an underground pyramid that they said was many times the size of existing pyramids in Egypt.
And specifically the Great Pyramid of Giza.
Mm-hmm, exactly. So here's the rumor. Here's how it went down. So U.S. scientists were concerned about nuclear tests being conducted underground by the government of China. So they set up seismic equipment in Alaska to monitor this possibility of nuclear testing.
And keep in mind, just while this is all happening, it's President George H.W. Bush in the White House.
Good call. Good call. This discovery, again, was only allegedly reported, and a scientist, again, according, this is a campfire story. If you're listening, you, Matt, Paul, and I, we're all gathered around a campfire.
Okay.
So let's use our campfire voices.
Okay.
So the next day, a scientist visits the station, this Channel 13 out of Anchorage, and he says, "Could I get a copy of that video?" "No such broadcast exists," they responded. And he was stonewalled. 20 years later, a retired military officer named Douglas A. Muchler claimed to have seen this Channel 13 report, and he gave this information to ufologist and investigative journalist Linda Moulton Howe. Howe confirmed the nuclear test, but seems to agree with Muchler that there's more to the story. You see, she believes that there is a pyramid and that any information about it has been covered up by someone or some organization.
Something.
Dun, dun, dun.
On the wing. Oh, man, that's awesome.
It's awesome. It has even more fuel to the fire here because, you see, there was also a video that came out apparently recently.
Yeah.
That showed footage of this pyramid that a team of explorers stumbled upon, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there are some problems with the video too.
Oh, there are certainly problems with the video. My understanding is that it has this thing that's called text to voice.
Oh, right, where people want to disguise their voices or their accents or what have you.
Or just to be able to type something anonymously and then have the computer vocalize it.
Can you do a computer voice? An example?
Me? Mine would just probably be misconstrued as Stephen Hawking.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I want to stay away from that one, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's the similar thing where it's a program that is vocalizing the words there. But I just want to get this really fast because this is the most mind-blowing thing for me with this whole story, this campfire story there. Because, it mentions that this person, Linda Howe, confirmed the nuclear test that China conducted, right? Well, we can also confirm that occurred, or at least there was reporting about it in places like the New York Times and the Chicago Tribune in May, specifically of 1992, when China conducted a large test, and the signals or the vibrations from that test were registered throughout the United States, specifically their system of detection devices that are all over the planet.
Right, and have been since shortly after the invention of nuclear weapons.
Yeah. So that story itself has that, it's that grain of truth thing where when you're looking into a campfire story like this, you begin to see the walls, they're illuminating. You're like, oh, we're actually in a space. This really does exist, wherever this is or whatever this is.
Mm-hmm.
But then you go looking a little bit further and you get to that point where Linda says, you know, the actual location of where this pyramid is, though, has been secreted away. It's been covered up.
And then it goes back to your original question when we're talking about pyramids in general, a question of motive. Why cover this up? Why disguise it? Is it perhaps a sacred site for local cultures? Or is it a site that is considered unclean for some reason? The problem with both of those claims is that other holy places throughout the world have almost always become tourist destinations.
Yeah. And you could make money off of those things. And that's nice. But here's the thing.
Yes.
Out in Alaska, where it was located, I'm not going to get tourism out there probably. You got to build a bunch of civilization first.
Or maybe someone already did. That's the argument, right?
That's the argument.
So it is true, though. You're absolutely right that there wasn't just one test in 1992. There was a test on the 21st of May, a test on the 25th of September, and a failed test on November 2nd, all in the same year. So this was extensive testing, but the one you had mentioned in that New York Times article, it's true. That was the largest underground test the government of China had taken at that time. So it is true, but the problem here is that there's very little indication of a pyramid in Alaska from anybody other than these sources that we've named. It does lead us to something interesting that we had never covered before, which was the existence of a Bermuda Triangle in Alaska, the Alaskan Bermuda Triangle. This is the kind of thing that a lot of more mainstream television producers love.
Yes.
You know, you can see, I'm sure you can find a cheesy episode about this, but just so that everyone has the concept, maybe we can explore this and see if there's more send to it later. There is this belief that much like the Devil's Triangle in the Pacific or the Bermuda Triangle in the Atlantic, Alaska has its own triangle in which people disappear. It's an area of very sparsely populated wilderness. It's very cold. It's a inhospitable location. Wild animals abound, right? And this triangle is thought to stretch from Barrow, Alaska in the north, which I think was popularized in 30 Days of Night, to Anchorage in the south at the left, all the way down to Juneau. And it's different because it largely goes over land, right?
Yeah.
Rather than ocean. Maybe there's a bay or two that it crosses.
Yeah, and in this case, it's generally just, I think one of the concepts here is that it's generally forest areas, it's mountain areas. There's a lot of, it's very cold, there's a lot of ice, there's a lot of snow, there's a lot of all of these things that are somewhat inhospitable for humans, right? Within this triangle area. In the center of it, at least, before you get out to the edges. And, you know, a lot of the claims that have to do with the Devil's Triangle, Bermuda Triangle, and all these things, they have to do with a lot of magnetic anomalies a lot of times. Sure. They have to do with weather patterns that occur within those spaces. And you can imagine something occurring here. We're in this it's not desolate, it's just it's not a place where a lot of humans gather and have all of their stuff, right?
I think we should do an episode on this in the future.
Oh, I think so too, because the disappearances that have occurred over this little triangle within Alaska, they're many, and they're pretty frightening.
Since 1998, more than 16,000 people have vanished in this area mapped out as the triangle. This contributed to an average of roughly 4 missing person reports for every 1,000 people in Alaska. That is more than double the national average.
Gosh.
So not only are there relatively few people in this part of the world, but a lot of them go missing. Maybe Alaska is just a place where people get off the grid, or maybe they end up at the pyramid.
Ooh, that's the thing. Okay. Look, before we wrap up, let's talk about the biggest, at least most fascinating out there concept for why a pyramid in Alaska would be covered up.
All right.
Do you want me to just tell you what it is?
Yes.
I think you know it.
What is it?
We've been talking about ancient, human civilization building it or something like that.
Uh-huh.
But the concept that perhaps all of these pyramids across the world, the big conspiracy, were all influenced by the same extraterrestrial force that shaped humanity, that perhaps seeded intelligence on this earth, on this planet.
I'm picking up what you're putting
right?
down. Yeah.
Like an intelligent panspermia kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is the most captivating version of this. That's why a lot of these secrets are still hidden. That's why we don't truly understand the pyramids in Egypt. That's why we truly don't fully understand why they're everywhere, and all of humanity was so fascinated by that shape and that structure.
It's kind of a sacred geometry argument too.
Yeah.
So Stargate. I mean, not to diminish that. That would be amazing if it were somehow true. The counter argument people make for that, of course, is that at the time, given understanding of construction and technology, that was the easiest thing to build that would last for a long time. You know what I mean?
I know.
I wish. You know what, Matt? I hope the truth is out there too.
Yeah, me too.
Hey, tell you what, if we do meet extraterrestrials in our lifetimes, if I ever meet them, even if you're not there, I am going to try to get them to build a pyramid. Even if they don't care what it is, and they're just they think it's our hello ritual, if they spend the rest of their time with our species thinking that instead of, waving or shaking hands or vocalizing, you build someone a pyramid as a way of greeting them
from scratch,
it'll be great. Yeah, it'll be worth it.
Yeah, I'm so down with that.
Let's get T-shirts with pyramids on them.
What I want to see is, let's do a pyramid on the ground, right? When it's kind of nice, you see kind of surrounding. It doesn't matter what kind. It could be a ziggurat. It could be whatever.
Yeah.
But then above it is an inverted version that has lights on the top of it and the bottom that's hovering down or coming down to meet it. So it's as above, so below.
And it's kind of like the old UFO pictures where the UFO would be casting a tractor beam down on the ground.
Yeah, it's like that.
We could also... Oh, you know what? Let's go with that design. That's brilliant. I have a caption. Tell me what you think.
Okay.
Aliens. The first pyramid scheme.
Oh, is that a thing?
No, not yet.
That was off the dome?
Yeah, let's do it now.
Man, you're good. Okay.
Well, I'm no Matt Frederick. But we want to hear your thoughts. Have you ever been to Antarctica? Do you think there's some sand to this Alaskan pyramid idea? Or do you think it's just another rumor in the echo chamber of the internet? Perhaps most importantly, and this will help us with an upcoming episode, what's your take on this idea of again, for lack of a better phrase, Alaskan Bermuda Triangle? We'd love to hear from you. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. If you want to meet our favorite part of the show, your fellow listeners, find us on Here's Where It Gets Crazy, our Facebook page, where I recently asked for some suggestions for upcoming episodes.
Yeah.
And we got hundreds of responses. So we've got to go through. Have you checked that out yet?
I haven't been on Facebook in weeks.
That's awesome. No, you don't. I'll take one for the team. But check it out. That thread's still active, and let us know. Let us know by writing to us with your ideas for upcoming episodes or your feedback. And if you don't care to sit down and write something out, or you don't like the social means, you can call us.
Yeah, that's right. Get those vocal cords involved and call 1-833-STDWYTK. leave us a message. Tell us what you're thinking about an episode. Answer one of the questions that we ask in one of the episodes. Give a suggestion for something you want to hear. Any of it, all of it. Make us laugh. That's my favorite thing ever. Just be funny. I love it. It's not a lot to ask.
And to put our money where our mouth is here, shout out to EJ on Here's Where It Gets Crazy, who heard us talking about Skyrim and went ahead and posted some pictures of us complete with our helmets.
Dude, with our horned helmets? I don't even know which helmets those are in the game. Like, is that an iron helm that you're wearing, Ben?
That's the one from the ads.
Okay.
The original advertisements, but it's not that great helmet.
Hold on. Noel looks like he's wearing an Oblivion helm. No, he's not. No, he's not.
He's not? That's in the game?
I think it is.
Interesting. And then I went back and just asked EJ for Daedric armor, and it came through. So that was really cool. Thanks so much. You can see what we're talking about if you go on Here's Where It Gets Crazy. But if you say, I don't like social medias, it's 2019, I don't like talking on the phone, we totally get it. You can write to us directly. We are
conspiracy@iHeartRadio.com. Stuff They Don't Want You to Know is a production of iHeartRadio's How Stuff Works. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.